Alright, so this is Enphase. I'm gonna try and chart this. I've never charted it, never traded it, but I like to start with the weekly. So you see down the bottom where daily is highlighted. I'll go to the weekly. Now you see this week here. You see this big ass red candle. It went from the high of 228.36 to 156.31. You can see the prices next to the date. Now, if you want to get a better idea of why that happened, you go to the daily, and then you see the daily. This E on the top here, this blue E, and this candle, that's earnings. So they had their earnings on April 25th, and their stock dropped 25.73%. So that's where that weekly candle comes in. You see on the bottom, underneath RSI, on the bottom of the screen, you see volume. That was a huge volume day for this stock. 25.3 million shares were traded. So, and this stock averages about 4 million shares a day. Today it did 3.12, if you see on the top right, million. So it's not a very high volume stock, but we're going to chart it anyways. So I'll go to the weekly, and you see from right to left, well, left is the past and right is where we are. So if I draw a line here, this is a resistance. We're gonna make it, I make mine yellow. It's just a habit. There's a resistance. Let's go for 1, 2, 3 weeks back. Make it right there. And it's covering that green line. That's where the stock is now. Now you can see on this week it hit the resistance. This week it hit it and came back down. This week it hit it or went above it for I'm not sure how many days. This week it went above it, but then came back down. So that's a resistance line. Now we'll draw one right here because that'll be a support line. Because it seems like every time, even on this week, it drops to this line, that's a support. And it touches on this week, it touches the yellow. Touches yellow. That's a support line. So you basically if it falls to that line, see even here and here, like so many weeks, if it falls to this yellow line, that's support. So that's a good time to buy. Or if you're gonna do options, that's a good entry to get in. Now you take the daily and we'll make some more lines. It's a very basic strategy. You draw a line here, I make my dailies blue, and we'll do follow that blue line across. You can see that it touches that blue line and comes back down. We'll do one more here because that's probably one of our last resistance lines for the daily. You keep going across, and you can see This is what we call a gap. This is There's a lot of potential with a gap. So basically, this day the highest it was 183.31. Now there's a gap that's potentially could go all the way up to 220.27 or 214.53. So basically you go back in time and you just find these lines of resistance and support, and that would be how to do that. So that's the basics. Now you could draw a line for every single day just to see what's what. Like you see this line, that was a resistance, and then it opened up the next day above and then met another resistance. And then the next day, which was today, it broke above resistance, and now we're in the gap, that big gap I was talking about right here in between these 2 days. So this could honestly be a play for tomorrow, because when this stock moves, if it has a decent day, 2.5%, 3%, a big day for 4%, 4.5%, 5.4, 4.37. That jumps some. This one came down 5.4. So if you want to get technical on the daily, this is going to be sloppy as hell. So let's get a drawing tool. This would be called a cup. Usually once you form a cup, there's some kind of handle. That's a cup and handle pattern. But if, say, tomorrow it breaks some of these blue lines, like today it touched our blue line on the hourly. The hourly time frame is one of my favorites. It almost went up to this one, this other support we made, and this is just going back in the past to see where the stock was and when it came down. So if we open up tomorrow above one of these blue lines, it's good potential, it's bullish, it's potential for it to go up. Now a stock like this doesn't have much volume. Unfortunately, it only averages, you can see on the top right, 3.98 million shares a day. And then you have a stock like Apple, averages about 56 million shares a day. And then you go crazy, you go Tesla. Tesla's average is 136 million shares are traded each and every day. And it's a 3-month average. So I'm going back to Enphase. All we basically did was create on the weekly our support, which is here, and a resistance, which is here. Now breaking that resistance is a pretty big fucking deal. So we can keep an eye on that tomorrow. But when you go to, say, the hourly, Hourly is one of my favorites for day trading. You can just make fucking lines. Let me get rid of this shit. Hold on. So for the hourly, you would just draw a line. I make my hourlies green just so I know what I'm looking at when the chart makes a move. And you can see this hourly. So breaking above these green lines, these blue lines, that's all positive, that's all bullish. Now you can go, a lot of people use the 4 hour. You can see on the 4 hour chart, right here it broke up to it, kind of floated around a daily, our blue line, a daily resistance or support. You know, floated around, went above it, broke below, broke back up, and then it just took off all the way up. And then it had a little bit of a break at a weekly resistance, the yellow line, and then broke all the way up to a daily resistance. And right there is a double top. See, they both touched the blue line and then came back down. So if we were to trade this tomorrow, I would be looking for it to get to this blue line, which is saying about 185.88. And if it breaks above that, then you got your next line you're looking for, which is 187.62. Now let's see how it did today. So today you see right there, the blue line, it broke down to the blue line, broke below the blue line, blew past hourly resistance, came down to another hourly resistance, it went back up, and then came back down to our weekly. That was a weekly resistance that was broken in the pre-market. No, yesterday afternoon actually. And then right around 1:30, it broke back above it. So that's really, you're drawing support and resistance lines. Like ExxonMobil, I probably have a shit ton of lines here. It's funny, when you texted me, it was, you asked about a ExxonMobil 402 call. It was like right around this time frame where the stock actually went back up. So I think you let's see what time you messaged me. $152. So let's check out 150. 150 is when it started to break back up. Now if you look, we're on the 5-minute. You can see, if we can see a better setup. Oh, that's 2-minute. What time did you message me again? 152. So Yeah, 152. A couple minutes, let's say, almost an hour, not an hour, 45 minutes before, you can see it start to break back up, little dip. Then at 4:08, it broke a daily resistance. See, even over here, it met this daily resistance, came back down. Right here, met a daily resistance, came back down, and then all the way up and up and up and up. Now, my red line here, usually a red line is like a major resistance or support for me. You can see it came up to it, broke above it, broke back below, and then this white line was a daily resistance I drew early in the morning. And you can see how it came into play. It's a 2-minute time frame. Every candle you see is 2 minutes. You see how it just floated around, it came back to it. Even over here, it came into play, and once it broke above it, then it gained momentum. So it's all about support and resistance. You want to buy at support, you want to try and sell at resistance. So this morning when I texted you about ExxonMobil, we were at this daily support. See, it came all the way down to it, it touched it, turned green, and that was my sign to get into it. Whenever I see 3 candles like this, especially a big red one, followed by a small green, and you can see when I'm on the bottom is the volume. This green indicated that there was positive buying momentum, and then the next candle even more green and green and green, and then you see both of these candles are, the tops are at the same level. So right there would be right there approximately was a support for the day or resistance for the day. Oh, and that for the next like 10 minutes or so, it came down. You could draw a bunch of lines on every chart, but you can always tell a story. Every chart tells a story from where the stock falls and how it's gonna go up and how it can potentially go up. And I can fucking ramble all fucking day, but the main point of this video is support and resistance, and that's how I chart the basics.